Hello, and thanks for tuning in. You are listening to a special deep dive episode on Building Fortunes Radio and the Humongous Radio Network. In this deep dive review, we will focus on the education, experience, and opinions of reputable people and sources on Building Fortunes Radio. Peter Mingles hosts the original shows with distinguished special guests, or research, news, and developments. These podcasts are so good, they are published everywhere. From highly specialized sites such as MLM.news and DirectSelling.news to the Building Fortunes Radio and Humongous Radio networks, and even on Amazon's Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Humongous.com is a corporate sponsor, and Humongous promotes each radio show, and Deep Dive is educational, motivational, and inspirational for the Building Fortunes Radio and Humongous Radio listening audience. Check out the music link and the deep dive review links as they add a unique feature worth your time and enjoyment. If you have questions or want to host a show on the Humongous Network, call or text Peter Mingles on 386-864-1928. Humongous. It's really big. Now on to our deep dive review. Let's get started.
Imagine for a second that you're trying to predict the price of your morning energy supplement.
Yeah.
You're not just, staring at a catalog or looking at that last quarter's price sheet. Instead, you are actually tracking monsoon weather patterns over coffee farms on the other side of the world.
Right, which sounds completely crazy.
It really does. Or maybe you're predicting an upcoming vitamin shortage by closely watching the fracking industry. I mean, it sounds entirely like the plot of a corporate spy novel.
It does feel like a thriller, honestly. But we're actually looking at the absolute cutting edge of global supply chains today. We're talking about a level of predictive intelligence that seems almost like psychic, but it is grounded entirely in cold, hard data.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission today is to explore the hidden mechanics of the natural products industry, uncover the actual truth behind supplement quality, and figure out how artificial intelligence is just completely revolutionizing corporate procurement.
Yeah, and we are pulling the foundation for today's analysis from a really fascinating source. It's this incredibly educational and honestly really inspirational personal interview from the KISC My Health Radio show.
Yeah, and I want to give you all a little context on where this goldmine of information comes from, because it's a massive hub of industry knowledge. So, the KISC My Health show is hosted by Peter Mingles and Stephen Lukowski.
Stephen is actually known in the industry as the Cranberry King.
Or Captain Cranman, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, it's great.
But what's amazing is just the sheer reach of this content. It's brought to you on Building Fortunes Radio and the Humongous Radio Network. And it gets rebroadcast across all the major platforms. I mean, Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio.
It's everywhere.
It really is. It's the kind of motivational, educational content you just want playing in the background while you work. And they even have this incredibly open accessibility feature, which you don't see often. If you ever have questions or even want to host a show with Peter Mingles yourself, you can literally just call or text him.
Wait, like his direct number?
Yeah, it's 386-864-1928. It's just a remarkably open platform.
That's wild. But that accessibility really mirrors the philosophy of the guests they had on this specific broadcast. So we're looking at the insights of a guy named Alex Lam.
Right.
And he brings a perspective that is totally unique because he's a supply chain veteran who spent years in the trenches of these massive multi-billion-dollar corporations like Nutrilite, which is Amway's nutrition division, before he eventually pivoted to found his own AI software company.
The arc of his story is just wild. We are going to trace a path from a 1980s refugee family arriving with absolutely nothing, all the way to localized server AI automation predicting global market shifts.
It's quite the jump.
It really is. But to start, the KISC My Health show, where KISC actually stands for Keep It Circle, was born out of a very specific desire. The hosts wanted to honor industry mentors who passed away, specifically these men named Jim Turner and James Gormley.
Right, yeah.
Their entire mission is to highlight the actual human beings making a difference, rather than just pushing bottles across a counter.
And that focus on the human element is honestly the perfect lens for Alex Lam's origin story, because his beginnings shaped literally every single leadership decision he made later in life.
Oh, absolutely.
So in 1979 and 1980, Alex and his family fled Vietnam as boat people. He was one of 10 children. So you have 12 people in the immediate family literally hopping from island to island In Indonesia, like a pinball machine.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, just trying to find refuge before they finally reached the United States through a Baptist church sponsorship.
The physical details of their arrival really, put things into perspective.
Yeah.
You have 14 people total because it's the 12 of them, plus an uncle and a grandmother who sponsored them overall, living inside a single 1,200-square-foot home.
Wow.
Yeah, 1,200 square feet. And it only has 3 bedrooms.
That is tight. It's insanely tight. And his mother is working these minimum wage assembly jobs an hour and a half away. She endures that commute, comes home, cooks for 14 people, and then brings pie assembly work home.
Pie assembly?
Yeah. The whole family would literally sit around the dinner table assembling pies just to scrape together a little extra income, all while growing vegetables in the backyard to sell to local Asian markets.
I mean, that is the absolute definition of a relentless work ethic. They arrived with no money, no understanding of English, and really no familiarity with American culture at all.
Zero.
They were entirely reliant on government welfare programs initially just to find their footing in a completely new hemisphere.
I'm trying to put myself in those shoes. And honestly, if you are starting from absolute zero, wearing hand-me-downs, struggling to assimilate, needing public assistance just to put food on the table, it feels like it'd be so incredibly easy to become angry.
Oh, for sure.
To feel like the world dealt you a terrible hand and just carry this massive chip on your shoulder for the rest of your life. And that's the pivotal psychological fork in the road right there. Alex and his family made a very conscious choice to lean into gratitude instead of bitterness. He shares this defining anecdote about his very first Christmas in America.
Oh, I love this part.
Yeah, so the local church that sponsored them actually adopted their family for the holiday. They brought over a Christmas tree, food, presents. For a 5-year-old kid who had experienced literally nothing but displacement and scarcity, that single targeted act of kindness completely eclipsed the daily struggles.
Wow.
It just became the foundational memory of his life.
And what's cool is it didn't just stay a childhood memory. It physically manifested into his leadership philosophy decades later.
Right.
When he's running these high-powered corporate teams, he actually initiates a program where his department adopts a struggling family for the holidays. He calls it a trifecta win.
I like that phrasing.
Yeah. The family receives a beautiful Christmas. His corporate team gets the shared experience of giving back, which, let's be real, builds genuine camaraderie way better than trust falls in a conference room.
Oh, absolutely. Trust falls are the worst.
Exactly. And then he gets the deep personal joy of seeing that cycle of generosity continue.
So we're looking at servant leadership that was forged from actual hardship. And you see that exact same grit translate directly into how he handles business. While he was still in high school, he worked at Carl's Jr. and as a nighttime collector for Bank of America.
At the same time.
Yeah. And he somehow managed to graduate third in his class. If you think about the chaos of his early life, coordinating resources for 14 people in a tiny house, managing multiple income streams just to survive that is essentially a masterclass in resource logistics.
Which translates perfectly into corporate procurement.
Yeah.
If you can manage a family of 14 assembling pies for pennies, corporate logistics is just a different flavor of that exact same chaos.
Exactly.
But I think most people, myself included, until I looked at these sources, imagine corporate buying as just like swiping a giant company credit card. What does that job actually look like on a random Tuesday afternoon?
Well, it is an endless administrative marathon. A corporate buyer at a contract manufacturer might be managing between 400 and 500 different vendors simultaneously.
Oh my God, 500.
500. And they are usually trapped in 4 to 5 internal and external meetings every single day, leaving maybe 3 hours of actual desk time.
That's nothing.
It's nothing. In that tiny compressed window, they are frantically fielding 75 to 100 emails, chasing down missing purchase orders, begging for delivery dates, and hunting for critical compliance documentation so production doesn't stall.
And amidst all that pressure, Alex's core philosophy was to treat every single vendor with respect. Because the buyer might have the corporate wallet, sure, but without the supplier delivering the actual raw materials, the entire production line grinds to a halt.
Right. You can't sell a product if you don't have the ingredients.
Exactly. You need the vendor to grow just as much as they need your company to grow.
And that mutual reliance brings us to a really fascinating aspect of the end products themselves. Because Alex was a buyer for Nutrilite, which is a massive multi-level marketing or MLM company, he was sourcing ingredients for a business model that constantly faces heavy public scrutiny.
Okay, let's talk about that, because there is a very loud, very common narrative out there that MLM supplements are essentially just low-quality garbage, like the kind of filler stuff pills you might find sitting in a clearance bin.
Right. You hear that a lot.
So if Alex is buying for one of these massive companies, I don't understand where the drop-off in quality supposedly happens. Like if a premium brand and an MLM brand are buying from the exact same global suppliers, shouldn't the end products be identical?
Well, based on his extensive experience in the trenches of procurement, Alex strongly dismantles that myth. The reality is that the raw materials themselves, unless they're actively adulterated by a bad actor or fail basic testing specifications, they are generally the exact same across the board. Yeah. The premium retail brand and the MLM brand are pulling from the exact same global agricultural sources.
Then why do some supplements genuinely make you feel better while others do absolutely nothing? I mean, I've definitely taken stuff that felt like a sugar pill.
He uses a brilliant analogy here to explain the mechanism. So imagine you give two different chefs the exact same basket of high-quality ingredients.
Okay.
One chef meticulously combines them to bake an absolute masterpiece of a cake. The other chef throws them together poorly and bakes something dense, flat, and totally inedible. The ingredients didn't fail.
The formulation failed.
Exactly, the formulation failed.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. It's not just what is in the bottle, it's how the ingredients interact with each other. Synergy.
Spot on. You can't just throw raw materials into a capsule and hope the body figures it out. The sources provide a highly specific example for this. CoQ10.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, so by itself, CoQ10 is a solid ingredient for mitochondrial health. It acts like fuel for the cells. But when a smart formulator pairs it with PQQ, they aren't just adding another ingredient, they are creating a compounded effect.
Wait, what does PQQ do?
PQQ actually helps stimulate the creation of new mitochondria. So you are building new cellular engines and simultaneously providing the premium fuel for them. The source mentions Andrew Lessman's ProCaps as a gold standard for this because he actively designs the formulations himself based on the biochemical science of how things interact, rather than just throwing trendy names on a label.
Which leads right into what the sources call the label trap. And I know I have fallen for this. You look at a bottle and it says something like green tea powder on the back.
And super healthy.
Right, it sounds incredibly healthy. You picture lush green leaves. But the sources clarify that there is a massive difference between what Alex called window dressing and an actual efficacious ingredient.
The terminology is definitely where the trap lies. Powder guarantees absolutely zero active compounds. It is literally just dried, crushed leaves. It's included in the formula purely so the marketing department is legally allowed to put a picture of a green tea leaf on the packaging.
That is so sneaky.
It really is. But if you read a label and it specifies green tea extract at 50%, that means they have used a solvent to pull out the active polyphenols and concentrate them. That extract actually delivers the physiological results you are paying money to achieve.
The probiotic breakdown blew my mind even more. We all know probiotics are a massive industry right now. You see them in everything from pills to yogurt to gummies.
They're everywhere.
But Alex points out that standard probiotics, specifically the ones starting with lactobacillus, are just vegetative cells. They are incredibly sensitive to heat, light, and air. By the time they survive the global supply chain, sit in a sweltering warehouse, sit on a store shelf, and then sit in your pantry for 2 months. They're often entirely dead.
Just completely cooked.
Yes, you're literally just swallowing a capsule of dead bacteria.
And the biological alternative he discusses is fascinating. Alex worked for a company called Darland that specializes in bacillus spores.
Spores. Like mushrooms.
Well, sort of similar concept, but a spore here is fundamentally different from a standard vegetative cell. It has a tough outer protein shell, an endospore, that acts like a biological bunker.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this shell protects the bacteria from heat, light, and even extreme stomach acid. Because of this structure, they can survive the high heat manufacturing process of gummy vitamins, and they remain perfectly stable sitting on a shelf for years. The formulation choice by the chef completely dictates whether you are improving your gut health or just throwing your money away.
But hunting down those highly specific, scientifically advanced ingredients like a stable spore probiotic or a specialized green tea extract that takes a massive amount of time and research. Which loops us right back to our severely stressed out corporate buyer.
Yep, the one with 500 vendors.
Exactly. If that buyer is spending 30 to 40% of their day just managing purchase orders, sending follow-up emails, and manually entering data into an ERP system, which is essentially the digital nervous system of a company that requires endless manual feeding.
Mm-hmm.
They physically do not have the time to go hunt down the best ingredients. They're just buried in administrative paperwork.
And that administrative burden actively chokes out strategic innovation.
Yeah.
Recognizing that ceiling is exactly what inspired Alex to pivot into the tech world. He founded a new venture called Camongd Solutions.
I love this part.
Yeah, the name itself is deeply personal. Camongd means thank you in Vietnamese, and GD stands for God. So it's Thank You God Solutions.
I really love how he carried that core gratitude into the actual name of the tech company. And the radio show highlights a brilliant parallel here. So the KISC My Health show is actually sponsored by a company called Humongous.com. And they provide AI receptionists for businesses. Their AI handles answering calls, scheduling appointments, sending text follow-ups, essentially all the administrative frontline work for small business. Alex's software is utilizing that exact same concept, but scaling it up for multi-million-dollar global supply chains.
Because both concepts rely on artificial intelligence to absorb the repetitive, low-level tasks so the human beings can finally focus their energy on high-value strategic work.
I'm just thinking about this like a chess game. If you were playing chess, you wouldn't use your highly skilled queen or bishop to just march forward one square at a time to slowly clear the board.
No, you'd use a pawn.
Exactly. You use a pawn for that.
Yeah.
These corporate buyers are the queens and bishops of the company, but they're stuck doing pawn work. AI is essentially the ultimate automated pawn.
That is a perfect framework. However, whenever you introduce an automated AI into a massive corporate environment, you immediately hit a wall of fear regarding data security. I mean, companies are terrified of a data leak.
I would be too. If I'm feeding this AI my proprietary supplier lists, my negotiated pricing, my upcoming product launches, how is that not gonna leak? I keep hearing stories about confidential company code accidentally getting spit out by public AI models to competitors.
And that is the exact vulnerability Alex engineered around. His system operates on a totally different architecture. It does not sit on the public cloud where it can cross-contaminate data.
Oh, so it's private.
Completely. It is localized directly on the company's own secure server. It connects to their existing systems via an API tunnel, acting basically as an internal brain. Furthermore, when it communicates externally with vendors to request quotes or documents, it uses encrypted two-way emails.
So it's locked down.
Exactly. The vendor has a key, the internal server has a key. The confidential corporate data is entirely ring-fenced from the rest of the world.
Okay, so the internal data is locked down in a vault. But the system still has to look outward to provide the predictive intelligence, right? Because earlier we were talking about predicting global shortages. How does an internal server act like a corporate fortune teller?
Well, the AI basically has an external observational node that scans global data sets to protect the internal supply chain. This is where procurement shifts from reactive to proactive. Take caffeine as an example.
Okay, a staple.
Right. A human buyer just watches the current price of caffeine on a screen. But Alex programmed the AI to watch the upstream factors. It tracks monsoon weather patterns over major coffee-producing regions.
That is insane.
If a monsoon devastates the crops, the AI calculates the biological timeline. It knows that in 6 months, the ruined harvest will lead to a shortage of coffee beans, which means a massive shortage of extracted caffeine, which equals a massive price spike.
And it tells you this ahead of time.
Exactly. The AI alerts the buyer today, advising them to lock in a 6-month supply right now at the current low price.
That is wild. It sees the domino effect before the first domino even hits the ground. And it looks across entirely unrelated industries, too. The fracking example blew my mind.
The fracking industry disruption is a perfect example of why you need an AI to monitor these complex variables.
Let me make sure I understand this one. Fracking uses a massive amount of an ingredient called gum acacia.
Right.
And gum acacia is a natural thickener. Fracking companies use it to thicken water, so the water is heavy enough to carry sand deep down into the oil well fractures.
Sure.
But dietary supplement companies also use gum acacia as a natural binder for their pills.
Yes.
Because the oil industry is incredibly lucrative. If they suddenly ramp up production, they will just buy out the global supply of gum acacia without blinking. And the dietary supplement companies are suddenly left high and dry with zero warning.
Unless they have the AI.
Right. Because this AI actually monitors the fracking industry's purchasing trends to warn the supplement buyer before the shortage even hits their own market.
It connects disparate data points that a human buyer would frankly never have the time to correlate. And when you bring geopolitical logistics into the mix, The capabilities are staggering. The AI monitors global events and layers them.
Like what?
Okay, so it knows that the Chinese New Year shuts down manufacturing factories for a month. It also knows that when China hosted the Olympics, the government mandated factory shutdowns within a 100-mile radius just to reduce smog and pollution for the athletes.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Right. Oh, and it factors in regional energy grid crises. When you layer all of those massive logistical nightmares together, the AI can mathematically project an impending bottleneck. It tells a company to stockpile raw materials months in advance.
So while all their competitors run entirely out of stock and fail to deliver products to their retail partners, the company using this AI seamlessly captures all that abandoned market share.
Exactly. It is literally outthinking the competition by seeing the entire global board at once.
But beyond the corporate espionage vibe of all this, what does this massive technological leap actually mean for the everyday worker? Like, why does automating this process matter on a human level?
Well, the true end goal isn't simply generating a fatter corporate profit margin. It's about giving people their lives back.
And that ties right back to Alex's core servant leadership philosophy. He noted that for a 200-person company, automating this administrative burden can save up to $200,000 a year in wasted repetitive time.
That's a lot of money.
It is. But more importantly, it allows those stressed-out buyers to actually log off and go home to their families on time. It fosters the kind of incredible work-life balance that Alex experienced back in Nutrilite, where they actually had 4-day work weeks and every Friday off. AI taking the busy work means humans actually get to experience their lives.
It is technology serving humanity. And that ethos perfectly aligns with the mission of the platform sharing this incredible information. It's just a fantastic reminder of the value of tuning in to the Building Fortunes and Humongous radio networks.
Absolutely. The fact that educational, motivational content like these deep personal industry interviews that get into the real mechanics of how our world actually works is streaming right now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, and iHeartRadio is just a tremendous resource.
For sure.
Humongous.com, acting as a corporate sponsor, is helping push these narratives forward. And again, if you want to dive into this ecosystem yourself, the accessibility is unparalleled. You can literally reach out to Peter Mingles at 386-864-1928.
The platform is dedicated to highlighting transformational leaders making a tangible difference. And I mean, Alex Lam is the perfect embodiment of that.
Totally. So as we wrap up today's deep dive, I want you to think back to that spy novel global supply chain and that brilliant analogy of the chef baking the cake. Imagine for a moment if an AI could perfectly automate all the administrative pawn work of your own personal life.
That would be nice.
Right. The endless scheduling, the overflowing inbox, the constant draining follow-ups. If all of that friction was just completely removed from your daily routine, what kind of chef would you become with all the ingredients of your newly freed up time?
Wow, thanks for tuning in. That was a really great deep dive. You just finished listening in to a special deep dive episode on Building Fortunes Radio and the Humongous Radio Networks. We hope you enjoyed it, learned a lot, and will share this with others important to you. In this deep dive review, we focused on the education, experience, and opinions of reputable people and sources on Building Fortunes Radio. Peter Mingles hosts the original shows with distinguished special guests, news, and developments. These podcasts are so good they are published everywhere, from highly specialized sites such as MLM.news and DirectSelling.news to the Building Fortunes Radio and Humongous Radio Networks, and also on Amazon Audible, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We hope you share them with others so you can make a difference in their world. Our corporate sponsor is Humongous.com. Now you know why Humongous promotes that each radio show and deep dive is educational, motivational, and inspirational for the Building Fortunes radio listening audience. If you like these deep dives, make sure you check out the music link and the deep dive review links as they add a unique feature worth your time. If you have questions or want to host a show on the Humongous Network, call or text Peter Mingles on 3868-641928. Humongous. It's really big. Peter Mingles and I want to thank you for listening in to the deep dive. We wish you the success you deserve and are willing to work towards. Now, go make your world a better place.